My goodness, welcome to the Amazon Connect podcast, episode 4, where, as promised by Mark in episode 2, we were going to use proficiency-based routing to route a guest into the podcast.
Right, that's right.
So we're all experts in Amazon Connect, but as with proficiency-based routing, some are more expert in certain areas than others.
That is
We
right.
wanted to make sure that we always have the best of the best. And so along with myself, Douglas Park, and Mark Rudkowski, we have one of my favorite people in the universe, Anjan Mukherjee, who you can see, hopefully, if you're on YouTube, who is you're more than a product manager these days, aren't you, Anjan? Tell us your title.
I still am product manager, but I wear any hat that I need to wear in order to talk outbound and help customers, people understand how proactive engagement can help solve customer pain points. So I'm just thrilled to be with you guys.
So
happy to be
Anjan
here.
is our expert, our proficiency-based routing expert on outbound and all things outbound for Amazon Connect. And before we go any further, Mark Rudkowski, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, Doc. How are you?
I'm really well. It's been a busy week. I'm tired. It's Friday morning.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the weekend, but busy weeks are good weeks.
Yes, they are. It makes it fly by, right? And so we're not too far from Labor Day is not too far for us for those of us in the U.S. It's a few weeks out, but it's just
And we should be clear that both of you are indeed in the US. So evening time for you.
That's right. And talking about Fridays, you may say some people may say it is Thursday, but I consider this is Friday phase 1. So
And for our sports interested listeners, and particularly for the massive number of people on the globe who follow cricket, may be interested to know that the last time Anjan and I laid eyes on each other was in fact in person. He flew all the way over to Melbourne to see the Boxing Day Test match between India and Australia just this past Boxing Day, and brought his sons. I brought my sons, and it was a magical time, a fantastic Test series. Mark, I know you love cricket, so you would have loved to have been there.
I'll just nod my head.
yes. Mark doing his best to agree.
I heard those 5-day matches are fantastic. They just go on forever.
5 days with no result. There you go.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
But I respect the passion that you two have for this sport.
India managed to get a test match just the other day against England. That was a 5-day match that had no result, and it felt like a victory to me. But we won't go into those details because people want to hear about Amazon Connect, and that's probably too much about us. So, Mark, why don't you go first with your favorite new release since the last podcast?
Yeah. Well, actually, I know a big one here, right, Doug, was the API for real-time position and queue. Right? Big one. So maybe we start with that because I feel like
okay. Well, I feel very passionately about this one because I think people
give the baton to you.
Because I think people are going to misunderstand this one immediately.
Yeah.
Regularly, I get people who I think are ultimately non-contact center people who've been put in charge of contact centers who say, I want to play to the call of the positioning queue. Mm-hmm. Can you tell and sort of repeat, you're 10th in the queue, you're 8th in the queue. I cannot think of a more useless piece of information as someone calling into a contact center.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All I care about is how long I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
Telling my position in queue, I don't have the context of what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Being second in queue in a 2-seat contact center with 50-minute wait times or 50-minute average handle times is very different to being 100th in queue in a 1,000-seat contact center with 1.5-minute handle times. And I've got no idea how big your contact center is. In addition, if you're doing any kind of prioritization or reorganization, the chances of that person going from 8th in the queue to 10th in the queue is there.
Yes.
And really all I care about is someone calling in is, how long am I likely to wait here?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to wait? Do I want to spend that time right now? I called a contact center just yesterday and was told there would be over 40 minutes wait time. I decided I didn't want to do that. I hung up. That's the piece of information that's useful. But that's not what this is for. And so the reason I've gone on that big rant is because I don't want people to misunderstand it. We're not saying you should play the positioning queue. I don't believe you should, for the reasons I just outlined. But this is for allowing you to make data-driven decisions between primary and alternative queues. It's about being able to actually reorganize the queue from the perspective of the administrator or the routing system. It's not about playing the information to the caller. Yeah, you're able to optimize your agent resource allocation through improved queue visibility. It's written in the last point of the launch announcement, and I think that's exactly what this is about. It's about what should I do with this contact, not what should I tell this contact. But I think my passion has overflowed on that one, and people are probably tuned out. They're not as interested as I am. So, Mark, we've also launched the enhanced third-party application support in the agent workspace. Would you like to tell us about that?
Yeah, so we've been continuing to enhance how our customers can build third-party capabilities into the agent workspace. So this is really enhancements that we're continuing to make around our SDK that really enable that flexibility to enable certain interactions within particularly around agents, and giving them the ability, reduce the number of clicks, for example, to do certain actions, within 3P applications. So it's something that you'll see more and more of, with the agent workspace, in terms of really giving that flexibility and that customization, overall, in terms of building those agent experiences, for your customers and for your agents as well. So that is something that we're continuing to improve upon, and you'll see more and more of that coming in the near future.
Yeah, and I think it's worth repeating, because it always bears repeating, that our mission with the agent workspace and all the features and capabilities of it is to bring the time to competency for a new agent down to as close to 1 day as we can.
100%.
So have all the tools they need, have all the direction, all the instruction, recommendations, process flows, and in this case, if there's a third-party app they need, that's available right there, and they can get going, and you're getting value out of that agent, and they're working as productively as possible, as soon as possible.
You've used the term, we want to make the agent superhuman, and that's the goal, right, is to enable them with the right context at the right time with that right interaction. And so that's, that's super important as part of that. And this is, again, another one of those tools that we're giving, our developers to enable them to easily build those type of custom applications within the agent workspace.
And the agent workspace, I think, is going to be, it's been centrally important from its launch, but it's going to become even more important as our view of how AI is going to interact in the contact center. And we can't do a podcast without talking about generative AI, but
I was hearing someone at least once, maybe twice.
I was hearing someone talk the other day about, the idea is that the AI will handle more of the interaction up front and push more, and the agent will handle less and less, because it'll be where things become complex, or the AI needs correction, or the human just wants to speak to another human. Whereas I think, and it's sort of a horizontal view of the interaction. Whereas I think what we're looking at from our perspective is more of a vertical view of where AI sits, in that the human will be the one interacting with the human, but the agents and tools, and by agents I mean AI agents and tools, will be doing more of the tasks underneath. Anjan calls into my contact center. I might answer the call as Doug, but in the background, the agents, I'll keep making that distinction, will go off and authenticate him. We'll go off and check his credit limit, check his balance, check his, do whatever tasks in the background, but I'm the one actually doing the talking. So that's what I mean by that sort of, the top layer is going to be the human, and then all those layers underneath, and we're going to see AI push more and more in that direction, rather than that horizontal view, which is AI is going to do everything up front, and then it's going to hand off to an agent who's going to do everything out the back. Yeah, and I think that's a really important distinction for how we're approaching AI in the contact center, as opposed to some other other players out there in the market.
Yeah, and particularly, this is where customers can start easy, right, with a lot of the low value, right, interactions that they have with customers. Again, this is kind of that crawl, walk, run, type approach, and having the human in the middle of that is also important, right? Particularly,
it's a better experience.
The criticality of that transaction goes up, right? As financial customers, right, is a good example where, right, there are just certain transactions today that you're not going to let an AI agent handle right now, right? And that's just because
you don't want them hallucinating $50,000 out of your bank account.
Not gonna.
Okay, now there's a perfect seamless handover, like the pros we are, because the latest feature release, Amazon Connect Outbound Campaigns, supports multiple profile campaigns and enhanced phone number retry sequencing, is a new feature of our outbound campaigns, which I think is the perfect intro to Anjan's topic this week, which we're going to go deep on. As always, for those new to the podcast, we try and cover off some new releases and then have a larger topic in the back half where we find out about an interesting area of Amazon Connect, and there are few as interesting as outbound campaigns. So, Anjan, without further ado, would you mind letting us know or giving us an outline of why Amazon Connect got into the outbound space in the first place? Because historically, dialers have been quite often separate platforms within the contact center, separate from the ACD.
And traditionally, we've been thought of an inbound platform too, right? Like that,
Indeed.
we focused on that use case for a very long time with Connect. And so I'm super excited that, we have these outbound engagement capabilities now, Anjan, right? So, but, love to hear, your perspective and take in terms of.
Yeah, you've been there in on the ground floor. So give us give us the journey.
Great. And like I briefly mentioned, I mean, this is a space I thoroughly enjoy, and I'm willing to talk about it with anybody who's willing to listen. Sometimes even if they're not willing to listen, I'm happy to.
Well, they're stuck in there right now, so they got no choice.
Yeah, and you have two willing participants hanging on your every word.
Yeah, that's perfect. So the business strategy, honestly, is fairly straightforward, and we are all consumers of as we are consumers of inbound because we call into contact centers whenever we have an issue. We actually are also recipients and consumers of outbound because we get emails from providers telling us how good the offer is that we should show up to the car wash. We have our dentists calling us or the dental offices calling us to remind us of an appointment that's coming up next Tuesday. Or, for example, during election time, we get calls to understand what our political affiliation is and if you wouldn't mind donating something to our party of choice. Or sometimes, let's say we are late on our payments of our credit cards and such, somebody will call us to remind us to say, hey, Anjan, like you have this payment due, would you mind paying back? So there are these plethora of use cases out there that we as consumers often go through as we go through this journey of purchasing, from awareness of a product to considering whether we should buy it or not, to actually making the purchase, to being being serviced on it, and finally to garner loyalty. So there's this as a consumer purchase pattern we kind of go through, and through this entire pattern there are awareness mechanisms, there are notifications, there is alerts, there is servicing calls, there is financial hardship support mechanisms, there is retention campaigns. These are all stimuli that happens to each one of us as we kind of go through the cycles. And if you think about it, even from that's the reason why Amazon Connect felt that this was a very natural extension to serving customers, especially in a customer service space, given that we already have these core capabilities around customer service. And this is not much different if you think about it. Dialers, you talked about, again, this is not a new term. We have had dialers since the early 90s, perhaps mid 90s or so they have been around. But like everything at Amazon, everything at Connect, we are not about just checking boxes, looking at competitors, and then seeing how many boxes we can check on a particular
crucial
feature.
point, Anjan. Crucial point.
We are literally work backward from what are the core pain points companies have, our customers have, and then see how can we best use our tools, capabilities, and our innovative mindset to solve those problems. So to that point, most dialers, when they begin, and now I'm taking us into the weeds of what outbound dialing is. So they will start with like a preview capability for dialing, because it's a very natural extension to inbound. Like an agent always sees the profile of a customer as they are servicing that customer. Well, why don't we use the same concept on the outbound side, and then before they actually reach out to to an end consumer, why don't they see the profile? We were different. We were like, what, the best way we can serve our companies and our customers is to solve how much we can predict the availability of an agent as we make predictive calls. Like, for instance, we make these calls based on the number of agents available, but we predict the availability of the agent, and we try to make the connection on how quickly we can connect the agent to a customer that picked up. Probably one of the hardest problems to solve to make this prediction and matching happen. But that's what we started with. Another one of those events to say that we work backward from the customer problems, and simply because that's what most of our customers told us, that not a lot of companies can get it right while meeting compliance and local regulations and such. So that was our mainstay in how we started this. So that was the piece of dialers and such. But the question is, how does it fit with Connect? Well, our belief is a few things. Number one is we are seeing. I'm going to throw some metrics at you.
Please do.
So we did some research with a number of companies that we work with, and what we found was that nearly 70% of companies that we work with, they shared that proactive engagement, like customer service is moving from being reactive, i.e., servicing inbound contacts, to being a lot more proactive. And the reason is very simple, because consumers expect companies to understand their needs a lot better and reach out to them in manners that they find is more relevant to them, rather than consumers having to reach out to a company and complaining about a certain issue. They'd rather the company reach out to them first before it becomes an issue. So I think that's kind of one of those pieces. So nearly 70% of companies feel that the customer service is moving more towards proactive versus reactive inbound. The second is, to the point, 80% of similar companies feel that when they have more proactive engagement capabilities, they improve customer satisfaction scores a lot more versus when they don't have some of these proactive engagement capabilities. So that's kind of the business mindset. So this is all happening because of improvement in customer satisfaction. And remember, better satisfied customers equals more loyalty, equals less switching costs, less acquisition costs. So for a business, this just makes a lot of sense.
And can you talk a little bit on, John, sort of, I know we talked about, the outbound dial and everything, but talk about sort of multiple channels.
Yes.
Right?
I'm so glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
So this is where the consumer preference comes in, like letting the great
excited. You can just feel the excitement.
He's up and about.
So just hit the stop button whenever you need me to stop. Just say okay, stop.
We love it. This is what we love.
So this goes back to the consumer preferences. So we are seeing that, like, consumers, they like to be reached out to, they like to be proactively engaged with in different channels at different phases of their communication channels. Like, for instance, SMS, mobile interactions are becoming a lot more prevalent. Like, text-based interactions are becoming a lot more prevalent. Social media is becoming a lot more prevalent. So I think that those are the other ways to engage. And Amazon Connect, being an omni-channel provider, we support that. Like, we do that for inbound just like we do it, and it's very seamlessly that we offer the same thing for outbound as well, is to offer proactive engagement across different channels, because we want to enable companies to engage with their customers in channels that they prefer, and very importantly, in moments that matter. So it's not like randomly sending an email, but then send an email to Mark, perhaps about something that he's looking for, as he's shopping for a car, for example, and then have a message sending out that, hey, Mark, are you looking for a car? Maybe we can help you with some of these choices as a company. So at a moment that matters. And then, of course, as I said, it still needs to comply with local laws and regulations, because many of these interactions, outbound does get a bad rap in terms of being abusive, but
it has misused by.
It has been misused.
Yeah.
So we are extremely conscious to provide features and capabilities to companies so that they can support the compliance features, support some of these compliance capabilities. And that kind of goes without saying. That's kind of our absolute base level. So I think that's how it fits.
An example use case might be a collections use case where someone's coming up, their payments coming up for soon. So you send an SMS to just give them a nudge, just remind them. And maybe it moves into 2 or 3 days late, and you might send an email, maybe another SMS. But
Correct.
Then it starts to get into delinquency, and that's where, okay, it's now worth our time as getting a human to give them a call and say,
Yes.
Look, Mark, we really need you to pay this, otherwise there's going to be action taken. And then at that point, it's always interesting to look at the tail of these things as well. At that point, you can look at what percentage of people are now never going to pay.
Yes.
Is it worth calling them again, or do you want a low-cost way, just another SMS? Because if we can get even 1 or 2% of them to actually pay their bill, then that's all worth it.
I think that's absolutely right. And then, of course, you want to make sure that you are not calling or reaching out to Mark too many times, because there are regulations on how many times you can reach out to Mark.
And Mark blocks
about a particular. Yeah.
Right. So that's what happens. Yes.
So I think so. That's that. I know we didn't talk about the new feature that we just launched, and why don't we get to that after your question, Mark? Like, why don't we
Yeah,
ask
no. So you brought up an interesting insight around sort of what we've seen with how customers have driven higher response rates by sort of that combination of SMS and then calling. Like maybe talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's so outbound is a conversion driven business. So I think so the reason companies have outbound capabilities is to get people to respond.
Hmm.
Like um, pick up the phone and let me tell you about my amazing product. Respond to my SMS and tell me that you're going to show up to my appointment. Go to this website and then fill out this donation and give me money for the cause that you believe in. So it's a very outcome driven business. So it's all about improving conversion and improving responses. One of the ways we companies tell us is, okay, what are the ways that Connect differentiate itself in terms of helping improve conversion? And to your point, Mark, one of the simplest ways that we recommend and we have seen results, amazing results, is most companies will still make a voice call. Will have make a call, and then when somebody picks up, have a human interaction. And then those response rates tend to be very low, like in between the 10 to 15% of callers, if that much would pick up. But what we found is if you send an SMS first to those same recipients, perhaps telling them that, hey, Doug, this is ABC Bank calling. We have an important message for you. We'll call you today. So the odds of Doug picking up a phone when he gets that phone call goes up by almost 4 times versus if the SMS hadn't reached. So now imagine the kind of savings that the company can get out of this. It's almost like for the same amount of calls that you're making, you have X the recipients, the 4X
the
number of
efficacy
conversion
just
that you have. It just went through the roof. So it's and then the cost of that campaign was not that much higher. Like you just sent an SMS. Yes, I mean SMS campaigns are, I mean, they're not free, but given the responses that you generate, I mean, this payback
the
pays for
value of
itself.
it in terms of the increased outcome.
I mean, it definitely brings more value than missing the call, and that's 100%.
I think that is kind of the piece. Yeah.
There's so many interesting aspects of every topic we talk about that I always feel as though we're bearing the lead a little bit. And so I want to come back to one sort of key point that outbound is a native part of Connect. So the fact that we have SMS capabilities and these outbound campaigns, both dynamic and list-based and all the rest of it, it's all in the same interface. It's all in the same platform. It's all using the same carriers. It's all this is all can be orchestrated by a business user using the normal interface. But the bit that I think is most exciting is, again, I'll say, thanks to AI, but the advanced analytics that we now provide gives new reasons why to talk to customers. Or basically, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, through speech analytics, you now know much, much more about your customers and know more about why they're calling you and what issues they have with your organization or where they need help. So far more than you've ever had in the past. You're listening to every interaction, hearing what they're talking about, hearing what their needs, wants, and desires are. And now with outbound, for the last few years, obviously, but now with outbound, we allow you to take action on that. Because it would be one thing to say, well, here's an interesting thing that's happened. Your customers really care about this. Well, what are we going to do about that? I don't know. Hope it gets better. But this is the mechanism where you actually are able to now contact those customers and make sure that you are doing right by them. So do you want to talk to me, Anjan, there about where you're seeing that kind of dynamism in terms of the changing nature of outbound? It's not just, hey, collections or sales. There's more to it now. It's a channel of service, isn't it?
Yeah, that's so true. We do envision a world where we expect to proactively reach out to consumers again at the time that matters with at the right channel in order to provide them the service, in order to help solve the problem before it causes an inbound contact, before it becomes an issue that they need to reach out to and get help from. And we will be using all tools available to us. You talked about AI. In fact, today we have mechanisms to use generative AI to create segments of customers based on patterns of data that we see based on their prior interactions, for example. So it's almost like as a campaign manager or as a business owner, when you try to create the lists of customers that you'd like to call, we actually pre-fill some of those areas with recommended segments, like based on the data that we have. So we will tell you, okay, these are some of those pre-filled segments that we would consider you reach out to. So it's almost like taking that action that you mentioned, Doug. It's almost we have pre-created for them. So you have to click on that. It'll create a segment, and then kind of engage with those customers in a manner that's most effective, most beneficial to you.
Can I game out an example here, Anjan? So what you're saying is my senior executives have said we want to reduce churn. That's our focus this year. I could then look at the data and say, okay, generative AI, tell me why. Well, what happens to customers when they churn away from us? Look at the people who've left. And give me some insight. What's happening on those calls? What's happening with their contact patterns and all the rest of it? So it could be, hey, someone calls us twice in a month, or no, and someone who churns usually calls us at least twice in a month before they churn, because they're calling up to try and they're annoyed or whatever. So now you can create a segment to say, okay, looking across who's increased their contact rate to us. I want to do an outbound campaign to call up those people and say, hey, Anjan, I see you've contacted us a couple of times recently. I want to make sure you're super happy with the service, that everything's working well for you because you're a valued customer. So giving that real targeted outbound experience to the exact people you want to talk to, and then thereby draw a straight line back to the senior executives who you can say, well, as a contact center, we are contributing directly to our reduction of churn by this mechanism. We can see, like you see after your campaign, there's 7% reduction in churn. You can say, well, that is a direct consequence of us targeting these outbound. Is that the sort of thing you're talking about?
That's exactly right. And what you just described is something that you can do right now. So because we actually have a metric which says number of like a frequent caller attributes. We have a service called calculated attributes within Amazon Connect, and through that you can actually create an attribute called frequent callers, which you can define as customers who have called the contact center more than 2 times over the last 7 days. Use that attribute as a way to create a segment, and use natural language to create a segment where of all frequent callers to the contact center. To follow the chain of thought that you had, use dashboards and reporting for that campaign when you reached out to those company and those customers, end customers. The ones that picked up, how many of them actually talked to you when you engage them. Maybe you send them an email when you send them an SMS to offer some kind of service recovery per se. And then you can do analytics on that cohort of customers to correlate back to your senior executives' point about of the total customers that were about to churn, these were the ones that we reached out to successfully. They responded, they converted. And you can see that the customers that we reached out to, their churn was much lower than the others that we couldn't, even though we tried. So that's your direct connection to an outcome-based metric.
Yeah, and that's it. You're putting meat on the bones of the whole thing right there. That's it. That's business value right there.
That's the power of proactive engagement.
And the power of it all being on one platform, that you're feeding back information, this virtuous loop comes back round. Information, act on it, report on it, background.
So like how we started this conversation with, like, dialers used to be a separate vendor, a separate point solution that would have to be stitched together with the inbound solution, mapping data back and forth and such. So yes, we are way more than a dialer right now, but the power of the product comes in because we are one application, all the way from managing your data to creating your segments, to setting your rules and contact strategies using campaigns, orchestrating across different channels, executing those campaigns in a very scalable manner, seeing the analytics in very intuitive dashboards. And back to your point, Doug, taking that data back to making your segments a lot better. So I think that's the virtuous loop that we believe that we can afford.
And I'm pretty sure we probably have a few videos on YouTube, right? That's demonstrating some of this. So we'll dig those out and we'll put them onto the pod, right? So
absolutely.
Right.
I think that would be
seeing
great.
It, right? I think is also great, right? As part of that, you did a great job ending it on, John. But right,
yes, always, yeah. This is although people should just trust what I just said, that's why I just said it. Yeah. But just in case that doesn't happen, we will, like, the videos are going to help. Yeah. Okay.
All
so,
right.
so let me talk about this feature finally because that's
Yes,
what we started off with,
let's
yeah.
bring it home with the brand
Let's
new
bring it
feature
home.
hot off the press.
Yeah.
So hot off the press, consumers have multiple phone numbers. Like this particular feature was specifically for our voice based customers.
Uh-huh.
So consumers have multiple phone numbers. We just launched the ability to cycle through those numbers all within a campaign as a configuration. So imagine, Doug having like a home phone, a mobile phone, a work phone. Admin, you specify the order in which you want to call Doug, versus Mark also has those three contact types, but you want to call Mark in an order separate from what you call Doug. So now we just have the ability from within for you to kind of set the criteria, the sequencing for each recipient, for each individual on what sequence you want to call them as you are trying to reach them for whatever it is that you want to have the campaign go out to. So we just launched the ability to go do that as a configuration from within the campaign. Once again, I mean, this opens up doors to engage with customers in other ways as well than just like a single one contact number. So that's one. So that was one of the capabilities. The other one that we launched was not only do we support lists that are for all people that we reach out to, we now have the ability to support an account-based list as well. For example, my loan account one can have myself as a borrower and my wife as a co-borrower. So we now have the ability to cycle through accounts and have the ability to know which borrowers, which phone should we contact. So go first, in your first pass for account one, reach out to account holder one on their cell phone. On the second try, reach out to account holder two on their home phone, and then so on and so forth. So we launched both of these capabilities, which unlocks use cases for companies who have their businesses both at an account level, because that's how they run their business. Or we obviously also had the ability to manage, contacts or just recipients as people. So we now support both. Exciting
all of
launch
this,
for us.
And all of this, you launch Anjan, it's all about making your outbound more effective. It's about how do you get to the right customer at the right time in the right way, using the right data for the right reasons. Each release, it just gets more and more effective. That's what stands out to me.
That's what we believe. That's what we believe in. Yes.
Now, I don't think any of us want to end. We all could keep talking about this for hours.
Okay, I'm gonna highlight that we're over 30 minutes now.
Yeah, I know. We tried to aim for 30. Yeah.
One of these episodes, just one. We'll get it under 30.
I'll try and edit. But thank you so much, Anjan, for being our very first guest routed into the podcast. You're very generous with your time and with your info.
You're going to be known as the first official guest of the Amazon.
Official guest card. This is, that goes straight to my LinkedIn profile, my resume from this point forward. Yeah.
Yes. That's about it. That's the budget we have to afford.
Yeah. Hey,
all right,
we are all trying to drive conversion at the end of the day. So this is what we do.
That's exactly right. So, without further ado, thank you both, and see you on the next one.
See everybody.
Have a great weekend,
Fantastic.
guys.
See everybody.
Bye.
You guys take care.
Bye now.